Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Commission on Civic Education. I'm Jennifer Boysko, the vice chair over the past 5 years of this commission, and happy to open the meeting. If the clerk would call the roll, please.
Senator Marsden.
Here.
Senator Boysko.
Here.
Delegate Munden King. Delegate Reeser.
Here.
Delegate Oates. Glenn Hopman. Alice Riley. Adam Wallach.
Here.
Lucille Miller.
Here.
Jim Dillard.
Here. Jim.
Steve Weddle. Therese Matricardi. Randy Pearson.
Here.
Benson Redmond.
Here.
Jeff Walters.
Here.
Marilyn Hill. You have a quorum, Madam Vice Chair.
Because of an accident on 81.
Thank you so much. We understand that there are some traffic challenges, as there often are, and so hopefully we'll have some folks showing up a little bit late. The first thing on our agenda is, because we have a new term, is the election of a new chair and a new vice chair. And wondering if we have any motions or...
Madam Chair, I do.
All right.
I would like to nominate Senator Jennifer Boysko as the new chairman of the Civic Education Commission.
Second that motion.
Thank you.
May I second that motion?
Yes, thank you. If the clerk would like to, are there other nominations? Hearing none, if the clerk would like to just call the roll or ask for the vote?
Senator Marsden.
Aye.
Senator Boysko.
I'll defer.
Delegate Munden King. Delegate Reeser.
Aye.
Delegate Oates. Glenn Hopman. Alice Riley. Adam Wallach.
Aye.
Lucille Miller.
Aye.
Jim Dillard.
Aye.
Steve Weddle. Therese Matricardi. Randy Pearson.
Aye.
Benson Redmond.
Aye.
Jeff Walters.
Aye.
Marilyn Hill. 9 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you very much. And now we need to nominate a vice chair. I have a nomination for Delegate Atusa Reeser.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If we could call, are there other nominations? Hearing none, if the clerk could call the roll.
Senator Marsden.
Aye.
Senator Boysko.
Aye.
Delegate Munden King. Delegate Reeser.
I will abstain.
Delegate Oates. Glenn Hopman. Alice Riley. Adam Wallach.
Aye.
Lucille Miller.
Aye.
Jim Dillard.
Aye.
Steve Weddle. Therese Matricardi. Randy Pearson.
Aye.
Benson Redmond. Jeff Walters. Marilyn Hill. Ayes 8, no 0, abstentions 1.
Excellent, thank you so much. First on our agenda, we do have, before we go into the actual thing, we do have some new members. I'd like to give everybody the opportunity to introduce themselves. Senator Marsden has served on this committee in the past. I'd love it if you would say a couple of words about why you wanted to be on this, and then we'll go down to my left, and then we'll come back with Delegate Reeser.
Well, very good. Well, my association with Delegate Jim Dillard, who has been the driving force behind this commission for many years, and Jim and I worked together back in the day. And when I was chairman of the Virginia Juvenile Justice Association and the bills that he helped us get forth, we became friends. And his abiding passion in civic education, Jim was the one who created the requirement for seniors to do 5 hours of campaign work to get them involved in civic education. So I drank the cat blood early on this issue and served as chairman in the past. And the yearly teacher summit that Jim's going to go into today has been a vital part of bringing Virginia civic education teachers together to learn about what's going on here in the Commonwealth and to promote civic education in our schools.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Well, good morning. Randy Pearson, my first time on the commission. I live here in the Richmond area. I work at Two Capitals Consulting here in Richmond in the government affairs industry. Have a passion for civics education, do some volunteer work as a board member with Virginia Public Access Project, or better known as VPAP. And I'm very passionate about civics education and look forward to helping contribute to the group. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Adam Wallach. I'm a returning member of the commission. I also have known Jim Dillard for many years and was brought to the commission by Jim after doing a lot of volunteer work for the commission. I was a longtime social studies teacher and administrator, and I now consult in the ed tech sphere.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Latusa Reeser. I represent Eastern Loudoun County in the House of Delegates. I was an educator before I was an attorney, so the intersection of youth and government has always been a passion for me, and I'm happy to be here to serve with you all.
Thank you.
I'm Jim Dillard, and I do now whatever Senator Morrison tells me to do. I was a former government teacher in Fairfax County and sort of a rent-a-principal my last few years in the county, but just glad to still be on the commission.
Thank you.
I'm Lucille Miller, and I came to be on the commission through the League of Women Voters and my interest in registering high school seniors to vote, and also talking to them about how you decide who to vote for, and to them.
Great.
Thank you.
My name is Benson Redmond. I'm a current teacher in Southwest Virginia in Bristol. I come by request of Delegate Israel O'Quinn, and I'm truly honored to be here. My passion has always been from the time I was a high school senior. I loved government. And more as I teach U.S. history, I remind my students that Virginia history is U.S. history, and so it's really an honor to be here, to be part of the Capitol, and part of this commission for encouraging civic education.
My name is Jeff Walters. I'm new to the commission. In my former life, I was a social studies teacher, world history, and U.S. Virginia government for about 18 years. Part of the most fun part of my job was having my students harass legislative directors here in the General Assembly, and now in my new life, I'm one of those legislative directors here in the General Assembly. So it is an honor to be able to serve on the commission, and look forward to working with all of you.
Excellent. Thank you. It is so good to have everybody who is new to the committee to be here today, and all of the returning members. Thank you for your past work. We've gotten a lot done over the past several years. The first thing that we wanted to do was to ask Ryan Brimmer, our Division of Legislative Services, to talk about a draft virtual meeting policy. Ryan, if you'd like to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. Ryan Brimmer with the Division of Legislative Services. I provide policy and legal support to the commission on behalf of the division. And so since this commission last met, there have been some changes to the Freedom of Information Act that now require each interim commission to have a policy, a commission-specific policy before allowing remote participation by individual members or remote participation by the entire membership of the commission. So what I've done this morning is just put together a very basic draft of a policy for you all to consider. It's very much like some policies that other commissions have adopted in the last year or so. And so that a copy of that is at your desk, and I will just run through that very briefly to hit the highlights of it. So there are 3 parts to it. The first part deals with remote participation by an individual member. So the policy will say that individual members may participate in meetings as permitted by statute. And so what the statute says is that there are 4 permissible categories for that. Number 1 is a medical condition or disability of the member. Number 2 is a medical condition or disability of a member's family member. 3 is that the member's principal residence is greater than 60 miles from the meeting location. And 4 is that the member has a personal matter described with reasonable specificity. So if you go with the personal matter route, you'd be limited to doing that twice per interim. And then really the key here is that if you want to participate remotely, just let me and Lindley know we will let the chair know, and then we'll kind of take it from there. The second part of this policy would be remote participation by the entire membership of the commission. Pretty similar. Again, just let me and Lindley know. We will let the chair know. And then those would also be limited to 2 meetings per calendar year, and they cannot be consecutive. So you'd have to kind of stagger them, if you will, throughout the interim. And then finally, on the back, just minutes requirements, the requests for remote participation and all virtual public meetings would be recorded in the minutes. And then if the commission disapproves an individual request, that would also be recorded in the minutes for that relevant meeting. So that's really it, Madam Chair, and happy to answer any questions if you.
Thank you. Are there questions from members of the commission?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
We have a lot of work to do between now and November 11th, which will be our conference. I think the chair will probably be appointing a committee of 3 or 4. How can we meet? You probably covered it, and I just didn't understand it. But we're going to need to get together somehow, either by Zoom or something like that. What are the rules? What can we do? What we can't do?
Yeah, Madam Chair, so if I'm understanding correctly, this would be sort of like a planning subcommittee to work out the details of the annual teacher summit. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Yeah. So again, I would just say we can definitely arrange for that. Just let us know, and then we'll work with Chairwoman Boysko to iron out the details of just setting up that meeting. Lindley will take care of the logistics in terms of the notices and the Zoom meeting room itself. So that can definitely be accommodated, I would say, if that sounds agreeable to you, Senator Boysko.
That seems reasonable to me. Do we need an addendum to the meeting?
Well, I think what I would say, Madam Chair, is that first, I think that specific group would need to be constituted, members would need to be appointed, and from there, I don't think that it wouldn't violate this policy for that group to meet in that manner.
Virtually. Okay. Then I think that's clarity enough. We would be able to do that ad hoc. Great. Thank you. Are there other questions or concerns by other members of the commission? Senator Marsden?
Madam Chair, I have a motion if it's appropriate.
Please.
I move that we agree to and approve the Commission on Civic Education policy for electronic meetings held under 2.23708.3 of the Code of Virginia.
And there's a second. There's a motion and a second. The clerk would like to call the roll. Do we need to have a roll call, or could we just do ayes and nays?
I would just do ayes and nays.
All righty. All in favor of the proposed electronic meetings proposal signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, sounds that it was unanimous. And thank you, Ryan, for the presentation. Appreciate that. Senator Marsden has a proposal to discuss civics education at the university level. Senator Marsden, if you would like to share with us your thoughts.
Well, thank you. This is something that I have worked on with George Mason University. It was starting out as a bill and budget idea that I had. And what I'd like to do is to have the commission, the ability to set up a small work group to meet with the university and come up with a way of creating this. What has been my concern is that we spend a lot of time on high school youngsters who are engaged in government and civic education, and getting them involved in campaigns has been a great idea to expose young people to that part of the process. But what I was looking to do is to create a 3-hour course at a university as a pilot, 1 hour each year, that a student could choose from perhaps a list of activities that they could engage in, such as visiting the state electoral board or the local electoral board, going to school board meetings, recording it all on your cell phone that you have done this, and write a bill, get it through, come up with a 3-year plan, perhaps hire an adjunct professor who proficient in the state's political world to implement that. The students could maybe get together once a year, once a semester, whatever, to discuss that, but make something very experiential, because just studying stuff in a book or writing a paper, it's a different thing when you go to Richmond and see the General Assembly in operation, to visit the electoral board and have them discuss the issues that complicate their world, that and the local board, and to start bringing forth a group of graduates who could have a certificate, if you will, or a badge or whatever on their diploma that would say that they have been civically trained, if you will. And the idea here is that it would be 3 hours towards your graduation requirement, but done 1 hour per year, and that students could be selected. And the idea here was to not just have political science majors, is to have math majors and physics majors and people who were in all forms of educational degree ambitions to make sure that this does not get captured in that one community of thought around political science. And I don't know the numbers. The first number that George Mason University proposed to me, I thought was a little high. I created a Juvenile Justice Institute at George Mason University with the help of the Robert F. Kennedy Foundation, and it was $75,000. And Barry Knight hit it in a $7 million appropriation to James Madison University, and they were more than willing to carry out if they got the $7 million. So there are ways of dealing with this and getting it going, but I think all of us understand when you go to YouTube and see people being interviewed and asked basic questions about their Constitution, about the Declaration of Independence, about our government, the lack of information is just staggering. And I thought this would be a small pilot program to get started, to make sure that it's an experiential thing, but done for people who are about ready to go out in the adult world and start interacting with it, as opposed to just focusing on high school students who will largely forget everything that you taught them. And I thought that this is something I'd like to put a small committee on, not to deal with this year, but to deal with in the full budget year, in the long session of 2026, I guess that would be, and to meet with the university, or if anybody has an idea for a competing institution of higher learning, that would be fine too. But we could just do a Zoom and just start talking about it. And so that is the proposal I'd like to bring about for one thing that we might do as we move forward with this with the Civic Commission, other than just the teacher conference.
It's very interesting. Senator, does anyone have any discussion, any comments or thoughts on this idea? Yes.
I'm all for that. I think it's really good. I like it. And if you need somebody on the committee, I'd love to do it.
Great.
I think it's nice to, Richmond is a good place because we have so many, institutions for higher learning here that we could approach. And I also agree with starting with a small pilot program, because just in the high school voting that we started, when we start, we go, oh, we made some mistakes. We need to look at this again and do it a little bit differently in terms of getting the students more involved. And so start small and think big.
Excellent. Yes, go ahead.
Again, I would echo the previous comments, so I think this is a great idea. I'd be more than happy to serve on a subcommittee to help it function. But question for the senator is just, is this something we're thinking about giving students outside of Mason's student body access to for the pilot program, or going forward, just thinking about students in Charlottesville, Blacksburg, Bristol, all over the Commonwealth wanting access to something like this and a great program? Is there thought behind maybe doing a virtual option or having a way for students who are not at Mason to have access to what could be a really great program?
Senator.
If I might, yeah, I think that's a super idea. or whatever. But I think that's a great idea. There's nothing that says should be restricted to one campus. It would cut down on the number of students from each campus, but we could have the same number of participants, but in a broader context. I like that, and that's something I think the committee could work on.
Thank you. Yes, Vincent.
Senator, so just for clarification real quick, so you're talking within a local level, engaging with the college students to go to like a electorate and go to school board meetings and things. Is that what I understand?
And coming to Richmond to appear before the Senate or to view a Senate, to write a bill and try to get it introduced, just to go through that process. And because there's some amazing things that have been done. You know, the white line on the outside of, not in the middle of the road, but on the shoulder. That was an idea from a student at the Model General Assembly back in the day. So, you know, ideas, you know, do come up from people, and having them given an opportunity to introduce a bill and coming in can be part of that student's education. But I think it would have that lasting impact on your life, you know, to that when you did graduate and got involved in the community life and your family and what have you, that you might be encouraged to stay involved civically with the community with regards to.
Well, as an educator, I will say, you know, one of the things that students don't really go to, we're starting to encourage. We have a great superintendent who's encouraged students to become more active by going to school board meetings. But are we transitioning that out into our colleges then, as we're training up teachers? You know, they want a hand in policy too, because they're the ones that have to carry it out. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for that really good discussion. At this point, do we need any action? Or what was your intention here, Senator Marsden?
You know, Madam Chair, I think this would just be in your capacity here. And once we can reach out to other members and talk to them, which I'll take care of, then you could appoint a subgroup of this group, just like we have for the teacher conference, you know, to work on this over the next 2 years to see how this might be done, and to talk to the chairs of the money committees and the Secretary of Education and Department of Ed, you know, to make sure we touch all the bases of including people in the decision-making process, because I'm sure there'll be other great ideas like the one we just heard about spreading out around the state.
Thank you so much. With that, after the meeting, we can discuss who would be interested in participating in such a subcommittee, if that would be okay with you. Sure. We had a new member who just arrived. Would you like to introduce yourself? And
I apologize for being late. You can blame it on
some traffic
accident on 81. My name is Glenn Hauptman. I've been involved in the Civics Commission since its formation. Been involved in education for over 50 years, working with Smithsonian Institution, IBM, Electronic Arts. And currently, I'm working on a digital revision of 269 roadside historical markers that deal with indigenous history, with grants from Virginia Humanities at this point. That's.
Thank you so much. I actually have you on the agenda to speak in a few minutes, so we'll let you catch your breath. But glad you made it. There was traffic everywhere this morning, and
thank you.
Absolutely. Next on the agenda, our wonderful former delegate Jim Dillard would like to talk about our Teacher Summit Committee. There's a lot of work that we have to do in a fairly compressed time. I'd like us to really figure out who wants to participate in that planning and get on top of this. So Jim, if you'd like to go ahead and give us your outline, we're all ears.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. At this point, we only have 2 people that are actually locked in to the November 11th Teacher Summit, and that's Bob Holsworth and Quentin Kidd. And for those who do not recognize those names, they're the leading pundits, if you will, on Virginia politics and are often quoted. And they have been attending this conference from the get-go, and they go out of their way to adjust their schedules. We had a little bit of a hard time this time getting them together, but I'm delighted to say that they will be on the program from 10 to 11:30. And that's always one of the highlights of the conference. And so I'm delighted that we were able to get them this year. The other person that we have, and let me add very quickly that all of the other people that I mentioned here have agreed to serve, but they are tentative. In other words, they are not locked in. And we do not have any time set for them. The next person is Christonia Brown. And Christonia, you might want to stand up. Now, Christonia has been on the commission forever and ever and ever, and has been working with us directly, our link between us and DOE, and hopefully she's going to be reappointed to the commission. And that's up to the speaker, and that, Madam Chairman, is in process as we speak. And she would be talking sometime about the new social studies SOLs and the various materials that may or may not be available to teachers as a result of those new ones. The next person is Dr. Ed Ayers of the University of Richmond, and he has been following the social studies SOLs for quite some time, and so he's agreed to participate as well. The other group we would have is representatives from the Virginia Public Access Project, which I'm assuming most of you know is the source of all knowledge dealing with politics and elections and all of that. And so they have agreed to participate at this time. And Irwin Hill, who is part of their staff, is head of what they call Civic Navigator. And so she'll be explaining what that is and what that program is. The next person is Meg Hubeck, who is in charge of building bridges using civic education. And she also has attended many of our conferences and operates out of the University of Virginia. And they're the ones right now that have committed. There is something called the New Literacy Project, and that's pending. And so the one thing that we don't have on the agenda is we don't have any teacher interactions. So we might want to think about when the committee gets together, some way to get some kind of teacher interaction rather than just sitting and listening, because that's where we are now. So, Madam Chairman, that's all I have to report at this point.
Thank you so much. Are there other members who wanted to give their feedback or have ideas that?
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
I was wondering if there were other members on the commission who had comments or questions or wanted to say that they would like to help with the planning. Not at this point, okay. Well,
Madam Chairman, I'll volunteer to help with the planning.
thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
And though she is not here, I'm also going to add Alice Riley to that.
I was going to say, I think Alice usually has a big part in that, so that would be wonderful.
Yes, and let me give Alice credit too for suggesting some of these people. We worked together to get these people on board.
Excellent, thank you so much. And as we discussed earlier, we have the ability for you all to meet via Zoom, so you don't have to all come to Richmond as you're doing this planning and keeping me in the loop.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir, Senator Marsden.
This may be for staff. Does attendance by members of the Civic Education Commission, which I would encourage to be at the summit, will that count as one of our our allowable number of meetings for us to attend and for folks to receive per diem?
We're talking about the subcommittee?
No,
Talk about
the full
big summit
meeting
in November.
The full. It would count against, and so we're allowed to have 4.
For a year, I
Okay.
believe, quarterly.
I just wanted to throw that into the calculation that, if we're going to do that, it would be one of our 4 meetings.
Okay, I think that, certainly we want to encourage as many of our members to be there as possible and to participate. It seems that it does make a good sense. I know that I will be out of town at that time, but that I'm sure that Delegate Reeser will be happy to chair whatever official part of the meeting we need to do. Excellent. Well, I think this is going to be very exciting. This is usually a well-attended event and certainly gives a lot of value to our teachers and educators around the Commonwealth. So thank you all for being a big part of that. And is there any other discussion about the summit at this point? All righty. Mr. Dillard, thank you so much for leading that effort. It's very important. Next, Glenn Hotman, if you have taken a breath, if you would like to give us your presentation on the civic learning informative and competency-based assessments, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Members of the commission, thank you for the time. Over the last number of years, we've had several different opportunities to meet as a commission and with an expanded participation of others interested in civics. And we've come to define in those discussions that civic education is perhaps not a standalone subject, but an interdisciplinary subject, one that should be taught across all the disciplines. And it's my wish that, or hope, that over the course of the next several meetings or other meetings in between, that we'll be able to discuss how that can be recognized and created as an opportunity. One of the things, by way of example, last several years I've been working with several schools in the Shenandoah Valley on a project that started off trying to identify people, places, things, events in a community that had not been properly addressed either in textbooks, curriculum, let alone in state historical markers. And I pleaded with the students not to bring in, and this was a voluntary group of 40 students who gave their free time to work on a history project. I pleaded with them not to bring in ideas for any additional markers for the Civil War, since that area was replete with numerous markers, being a crossroad of troop crossings from the south to the north. Nonetheless, there were several. Another student brought in some fossils that had been found in the valley near one of the wineries, noting that the valley had once been an inland sea. Trying with great difficulty to try and identify how that marker would be represented. Others dealt with the pig iron mining in the valley and the mountains nearby. Then all of a sudden, the librarian brought in a woman by the name of Marquita Mitchell, who had been an alumna of the Sunset Hill School for Colored Children in Strasburg. Note that in Shenandoah County, at the time, there were only 2 markers that dealt with the experience of African Americans, freed slaves, or others. And the students listening to Marquita talk about her experiences at that school well after the Brown versus Board of Education decision. I think we're all familiar with the desegregation issues in the Commonwealth at that time. But there was no marker for that school, and the building was still standing. The students learned of what it was like to be a student in that school. There was one person on the alumni group who knew of what took place in 1929 when the school, the Queen Street School, was burned down, and the Sunset Hill School replaced it several years later. Long story short, Marquita wrote an application which to the Department of Historic Resources with assistance of a number of state agencies. That application is about 13 pages. Marquita came back with a 275-page book as part of her application on the history of African American students in the Shenandoah County area, in particular Strasburg, and the marker was established. That became a means of civic engagement, history, literature, writing and interviews for the students. That led to the project that I'm currently developing, which is creating a digital version of all the markers that deal with Indigenous history in Virginia. And suffice to say, there are numerous topics, places, events that have not been represented, but there have been many that have been misrepresented. And working with several tribes and scholars in various universities, we are in the process of enhancing, I think is the best word to use, the existing markers and creating new markers. All of that I present by way of introducing the notion that civics can be broadened, and it is not only a topic in terms of measuring or knowing the numbers of delegates or the structure of the court system or otherwise, but it is a part of literature. It is a part of science. The notion of stewardship and conservation is a matter of civic engagement as well. And there are several experiments going on across the Commonwealth that deal with not only markers, but the notion of stewardship. And I would like to suggest that the commission undertake over the course of the year a means for encouraging those projects, creating new projects, and incorporating them within the state's acceptance of badging or project-based learning for civics across the disciplines. There is a number of different schools now that are working on competency-based assessments in which this might fit as well. It's an open-ended discussion. I have no solutions, but I do have hopefully suggested several ways in which that might proceed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that work. That's really exciting to hear that you're really, taking that on. And are there comments or other points, thoughts?
I just have a question. Can you tell us anything about where we are with formative assessments and stuff like that?
There are several schools that I'm aware of, James Madison in Vienna in particular, that are working on specific competency-based learning and as alternatives to formal grading as we know it. I think Christonia might be able to supply several other examples, but the notion is that in place of a standard examination, whether it's an SOL or other written test, if you will, that the involvement of the students, their knowledge in terms of how they prepare written reports, how they involve themselves in committee work and research, all can be evaluated as part of proof of their what they've learned, as it were. and their ability to express it and apply it. So I don't have a direct answer for you, more of an expansive answer. Excuse me, sorry.
Christoni, I'm wondering if you might want to give us a kind of an update, since we know that this is your wheelhouse.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christania Brown. I am the History and Social Science Coordinator for the Virginia Department of Education. And to kind of slightly address Mr. Dillard's question, in 2020, the Board of Education passed guidelines or approved guidelines for students to be able to use a performance assessment for verified credit. And that's an alternative to taking the SOL test. And for probably since 2017, we have been working towards developing performance assessments for high school. We do have them for our world geography, world history courses in our Virginia and U.S. history course. There is not an SOL test or a performance assessment for our Virginia and U.S. Government class, but we do have the Civic seal. And this commission has been very involved with the development of that Civic seal. It may be an idea, thinking back on or looking at what Mr. Hotman is talking about, looking at maybe expanding or even being more descriptive of that seal and maybe proposing that to the board. It is something that school divisions use very, very specifically when they're talking about students and their volunteerism, service learning, so forth. So it is an alternative to what Mr. Hotman is talking about. We do have school divisions that their local school boards do they do have students or require students to do a certain amount of community service as a part of their graduation requirements. And they do a lot of this through either their civics and economics course, which is a middle school course, or Virginia and U.S. history, which is, of course, the high school course. So, does that help?
That is helpful. I also, we've seen a lot in the news recently around competency and tests and such. Would you, and this is not in our plan, but I'm just wondering, our high school students, many of them take AP courses, and they're not required to take SOLs. So would you be able to just help me understand, is the competency of one of the AP tests in just general acceptance, that's something that would show that competency above an SOL? Isn't that accurate?
That is. What we do have are our AP courses will have exams, and they can take those exams in lieu of the SOL test. But there is a score a minimum score that they have to achieve. And also that particular test has to be approved by the board as a substitution for that SOL test. So the AP government test, because there's no SOL test, there's nothing to substitute for, but students have to earn at least one verified credit to meet the requirement for history and social science. So they would be able to take AP World, AP Modern, AP US as substitutions for an SOL course.
Thanks for that clarification. Appreciate that. Are there other questions from members? You might have any follow-up?
No question, but one of the things that we found, and I taught AP U.S. history for a couple of years, and I loved teaching AP, but the students would rather take the dual enrollment classes now because they feel like they're getting the credits transfer a little easier. But one of the problems that we had was with the AP score, you don't get those until July. And so what happens is, when College Board releases the scores, if you did not score high enough, because sometimes, there are no requirements to get into an AP course. College Board opens and any and all students are allowed. But what was happening was a student who may not perform as well, then going into their senior year has to take it again, or then take the SOL test for that requirement. And so that was one of the problems that we were seeing with the AP testing is you don't get a score like you do, coming, with the SOL score. I do know that right now that in Washington County, there are about 50 divisions that we will be following suit to help to do locally awarded verified credits in replacement. That is a shift and change that will be more of a writing component instead of the standardized test that we're starting to go to. But with the AP, that was the caveat was you have to wait till July, and you may or may not get that score.
That is an interesting point. Thank you so much. I appreciate your participation in this.
Madam Chair, just one question, if I can. Just as we're talking about these competencies and these assessments, and how I assume the goal here is to get more students going through these programs and getting into taking these assessments and wanting to take these courses. Is there a mechanism that we're currently collecting feedback from students about how these courses are going, what's interesting in them, like how are they, or what are we doing to get feedback from students so that we understand where we're meeting their expectations, where we're encouraging them to get in these programs, and where we're maybe falling short to, both at higher ed and at the K-12 level? Because I feel like if we consider all day long and talk about it, but if the students aren't interested in what we're trying to get them to do, they're not going to do it. They're going to choose other courses, right? So that's just a question I have.
That's a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, but the data, I would be happy to take that back to our information systems persons. I can say that when we were going through the standards review, one of the committees that we pulled together were students, because it's not that assessment side, but how do you feel about what you're learning in your actual classes through the instruction? And we were able to just get a sampling of students from across the Commonwealth. We have 8 superintendents regions, and we were able to get at least 10 students from each region. We are doing this during class. And what we found did really have an impact on how we were thinking about the standards themselves. So it is very important information that we pick up from our students. So I will take that question back to our information systems persons and hopefully have something for you the next time we meet.
Thank you, Adam.
Christania, can you, this is a few years ago, so I may be wrong, but I thought that in government classes that there was a survey that either the commission put out or the Department of Ed put out maybe 3 years ago, where we got a lot of feedback from students on, I guess, how they felt about civic education and things of that matter. Is that correct?
That's correct. It was about 5 years ago, and that report is posted on the DOE website, and what I will do is send that link. It is about 5 years old. But it was very good information, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we surveyed, I don't want to throw a number out, but we did do a survey for that. And like I said, I will send that link out because it does speak to the information that you're asking about.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me, Adam.
Doing another survey might be an interesting thing for us to take on again in this newly formed commission. So perhaps we could work together on that.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time,
so
Christiania.
welcome.
It's good to see you again. You too. We are passing the Indigenous Markers Project around to let other members look at it. It's really interesting, and I look forward to learning more on that. Next on our agenda is to set dates for future meetings, and Senator Marston has already asked that we set November 11th as our next official meeting. Do we need to make the whole schedule for the whole year right now, Lindsay, or would that be helpful if we look at the calendar for the whole year right now? You all?
Madam Chairman, I don't see really how that can be a meeting. It's all day.
Okay.
Contrary, I was I said I'd do whatever he suggested, but I just don't see how November 11th can be a commission meeting and get any business done or talk about anything. I think we need one after the commission meeting to assess it and to also do more planning on where we want to go from here.
Okay.
But we can't do that on the 11th, in my opinion.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Senator Marsden.
Let me ask staff a question. The 4 meetings per year, is that calendar or fiscal?
I'm assuming it's fiscal.
Yeah, I almost think it's just legislative, like from the sine die to the first day of session. It kind of goes that way. So interim, I guess I would say.
Yeah. So for the only reason, Delegate Dillard, that I wanted that clarification was to encourage legislative members to come and participate and be able to, receive their mileage and whatever. So that I think would be probably the only other meeting this year. We would probably, I don't know, would we want to get together in December, to do that, and then we can talk about after sine die.
Sure, I would like to entertain maybe an early December meeting. If we can talk about whatever legislative items might be coming up that would affect, that we could look at.
Good idea.
And also to hear how the summit went and to see where we are. So maybe an early December meeting before.
I can poll for December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you so much. So we will encourage our members to come to the November 11th summit, but we will not be doing official meeting that day. We will hopefully have something in early December. Is there other business that has not been raised yet? Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was wondering if, I know the staff has everyone's email addresses, but it would be helpful with these, kind of subcommittees that we're talking about, if we could distribute a list of emails and cell phone numbers, if the person is willing to share their cell phone numbers, so that we can easily reach out to each other and get everybody into our phone books, because we do have a lot of new members, and it's just really helpful in the planning process to have that information. Would that be something staff could put together?
Sure. If someone's not comfortable with that, if they could just come up to me after the meeting.
Do you have the cell phone numbers?
Most, I think.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, great. Is there any other new business to be?
Have we agreed to a spring meeting or that's the crucial one after the assembly?
I'm happy for us to schedule that now. That's not a problem. So if we're going to meet in early December, then something shortly after session, maybe the third week in March, maybe.
17th, 18th, 19th.
Yeah.
That's the one where we would start the planning for the commission and be able to get dates and get people.
Sounds good. That sounds great. All righty. We have now an opportunity for members of the public to address the podium.
Madam Chair, before we move to that,
Adam.
my understanding is that there was money that was given to the commission to create a new website, and that work has not been done yet. Would it be possible in the next meeting to get information on, I guess the funds that are available, what the current state of our website is, where it's located, and possibly put together an action plan for that to happen?
I think that sounds like something that would be important. Are you aware of who was tasked with that or where we left that? I do not.
I do not. I don't even know if anybody was tasked with it. I believe Mr. Dillard would recall who donated the money, but it's a few years back now.
Okay. Mr. Dillard, did you have any?
No, I can't say who did it. I do know that Senator Morrison provided money for the commission some years ago, and I don't know what our financial situation is now. Maybe somebody on staff or somebody, do we have money tucked away somewhere? Did we have an appropriation this year?
I think we can look into that, and in the December meeting, hopefully we'll have an update on it. I'm not aware, and I do not recall where we were, but thank you for bringing that up. There are people who would like to speak. Come on up. Looks like VPAP is arriving. If you'd introduce yourself and tell us what you wanted to talk about.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Chris Piper, the Executive Director of Virginia Public Access Project, better known as VPAP. Probably all of you are subscribers or should be subscribers to VA News. This morning we launched a new program and a new initiative from VPAP called Civics Navigator, powered by vpap.org. After a generous donation from a longtime supporter, we have come up with this program to provide civics resources to educators across the Commonwealth. We set out a 6-month research journey to figure out how we could best impact the civics education arena. And what we've figured out is that VPAP has unique resources available to us from our articles that we collect on a daily basis, as well as the data visualizations that we provide to help educators provide additional context to the lessons that they're teaching in their schools every day. This is an opportunity for us to really help educators focus on the impact, the consequences, the real-time information that is, or real-time news that is happening in the civic space, and a focus on state and local government and politics, which I think is something that we would all agree is sorely missing. We're very excited to launch this, and I'm looking forward to the future. I would encourage each of you, if you have a chance, to go to vpap.org/civics and check out our Civics Navigator program. There's a lot of information in there. I'm also happy to introduce our civics education program director, Erin Hill. She's a former social studies teacher and project manager. So she's been a real treat to have on the team. And she will be a regular face at your commission meetings. And I look forward to the summit, but I would love to have each of you visit Civics Navigator and provide any feedback to our office and let us know what your thoughts are. And we would really appreciate that. And I want to thank Randy, who's an ex officio member of the VPAP board, and excited to have him on here as well. I think he was appointed long before we did this, so this was no ploy by VPAP on our end. But very glad to be here, and I'm glad you all are meeting. We're real excited about this program and the future of civics here in Virginia. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate the effort that VPAP is doing to help inspire people to learn more about civics and our government. I appreciate that. Ms. Hill, would you like to just say a couple words about what you plan to do?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and definitely recommend checking out vpap.org/civics and giving feedback for that. It's all about bringing it to life and making it real time, providing the context, and much of which we've already discussed here. I think our aims are similar. We also put a lot of effort into research and summarizing that, so I feel like this commission can really take off with the research that you've already done in the past in the previous versions of this commission, and also what we've done. So excited to see where we're able to take this, and again, welcome your feedback and thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you. VPAP is certainly a great resource and an asset to the Commonwealth. I served on a civic engagement group through the Council of State Governments a few years ago, and not every state has a nonprofit that works hand in hand to provide the public this level of service. So thank you all for what you do. Are there other people in the audience, in the public, who would like to address any comments?
Madam Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Dillard.
I was hoping that we would have a representative from the YMCA who was here earlier. Tracy Richburg is the new Chief Executive Officer, and she's going to be in charge of this year's Model Judiciary Program, and she wants to breathe a little new life into it. And so we're really excited to have her participate in that.
Thank you so much. I actually participated in my YMCA model government back in 1985 in Alabama, and can tell you that was kind of a launching for me. So it's a really good, important thing to help kids understand what government is all about.
Great.
Seeing that, if there is no other business, then do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All righty. Thank you. The committee will rise.
The Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.